Hello, my name is Len. I'm your host of the Targeted Justice v. Garland, a podcast about an extraordinary lawsuit. And with me today, as always, my favorite person, Anna Toledo, the attorney for the plaintiffs in this historic lawsuit. Anna, please say hi to our audience.
Hi everyone, and hi Len, and thank you for your courage and your strength, because I know this has been a hard journey, but worth every minute of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Without further ado, let's go to our legal segment. Today's segment is called TSDB Goes to the Supreme Court. TSDB has been, of course, a terrorist screening database, the one that is central to our case. Interestingly enough, the squattersblog.com just announced that the oral arguments in the case FBI v. Ficre are scheduled for January 8th. And we have not covered this case. I wanted to give you just some history about it. The history of the case, first, it was not called FBI v. Ficre. It was called Ficre v. Federal Bureau of Investigation. So it was filed in Oregon. It's about a gentleman who is an American citizen, traveled to the country of Sudan, and before it was time for him to return, his status was changed to no-fly in the terrorist screen database. So he was having a really hard time getting back to this country, to the country of which he is a naturalized citizen of. And then it went to the Court of Appeals. There are two decisions of the Ninth Court of Appeals, and I will ask you, Anna, why. But let's look at what the district court in the state of Oregon concluded in this case. The court dismisses with prejudice claim one. The claim one was that the plaintiff alleges his placement on the no-fly list while abroad prevented him, a U.S. citizen, from returning to the U.S. and effectively stripped plaintiff of his rights, privileges, and immunities as a citizen, thereby effectively rendering him stateless in violation of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution.
I'll tell you what happened there. People have to appreciate this case began in 2013, 10 years ago. And right now he filed his 7th amended complaint. Okay. So it has been a battle, a really long battle. And they have been twice to the Ninth Circuit. It's from Oregon, that we know there's a lot of TIs in Oregon too, and in district court in Oregon. The first time that they went to the Ninth Circuit, here's what happened. They filed suit in 2013. In 2014 and in 2015, TSA reiterated they were not changing the flight status of no-fly. As you know, no-fly is handling code 1, and selectee list, which is subjected to the 4 S's, the additional screening, that is handling code 2. So from 2014, 2015, they insisted he was in the no flight status. Now, when the motion to dismiss was pending in 2017, they decided, oh, no, okay, we're taking him off the no-fly list based on the information we have so far. But he wasn't placed on the no-fly list for, mistakenly. He was correctly placed there, but because of the information we have so far, we're gonna remove them. And then the district court, the first time, dismissed, saying, okay, the case is moot, he's been removed. And the Court of Appeals said no. The voluntary cessation exception, which the court applied, does not apply because we don't know if the government will go back. It's legally free to return to its old ways, despite abandoning them in this litigation. So Ficre's case could be dismissed, and then the next day they could put him back on the no-fly list. And so they go back to the district court, and the district court again, the FBI submits a sworn statement saying, based on the information we have, he's not on the today, on the information we have today, we're not going to put him on the list. And the district court erroneously dismissed it again. And the Ninth Circuit, look at what they say. The government has failed to follow instructions given by this court the last time FICRE case was before us. So that's the Ninth Circuit in the most recent decision that is now before the Supreme Court. They told them, you government, you disobeyed the court's order, and sent it back to the district court. And that is when FBI decided to go to the Supreme Court after this second decision telling them, you disobeyed us.
So that explains that there were two conclusions by the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. There's a 2018 conclusion, which says reversed and remanded. It said, we reverse the district court's dismissal of FICRE's due process claims and remanded for further proceedings. And then there's a 2022 conclusion, which says reversed, vacated, and remanded. That's what you explained. Now it makes much better sense to me, and I hope it makes better sense to our viewers.
It's very important. The Ninth Circuit, remember that the Ninth Circuit is the one that adjudicated the Ibrahim case that also had many episodes in the Ninth Circuit. And that is a case where finally the district court concluded that, that's Ibrahim versus Homeland Security, concluded that even though she did not represent a terrorist threat, she was still in the database. So she's a targeted individual. She's from Malaysia, I think. And that decision of the California District Court, the government sought to seal so that people like myself wouldn't find it. They wanted to seal that decision. Now, the importance of this FICRE's decision is that, as you remember, El Haiti versus Cable case, which Judge Trenka made a great decision saying, the placement of people in this TSDB is all over the place and doesn't follow the Constitution, right? Well, the Fourth Circuit reversed that and said, no, there is a redress procedure whereby the person can get their name removed from the list, whether, the no-fly or the selectee list. Now, this Ninth Circuit says, we also hold that 49 U.S. Code 4611A, which is that redress procedure, does not divest the district court of jurisdiction over FICRE's no-fly list due process claims. And that is huge, because that El Haiti versus Cable case never went to the Supreme Court. I don't know if they petitioned for certiorari, but if they did, it was not granted. So the reason why this is so huge is because this is going to be in oral argument on January 8th, like you said. Well, it's a month from now. And this case is going to be really important, not just for them, not just for Kovac v. Ray, but also for our case as well. Even though targeted individuals are not in handling codes 1 and 2, it is important what the court will say about the due process claims, which is these people were placed on this list without notice and without due process, which is what we're going to talk about a little later.
I have a question for you, Heather. Are you aware of any other cases when TSDB was in front of the Supreme Court, or is this truly the first time the Supreme Court is taking a look at this?
Yeah, I think it is. Because if there are, I have not found them. I think this is the first time. Probably many of them have petitioned for certiorari and they have been denied. I don't know. But because the really good one was the 2020 decision, I think it was the El Haiti versus Cable, which was in Virginia, and then it was reversed by the Fourth Circuit. After that, they have been doing different kinds, like Kovac Ray, which is going after the major questions rule, which is the agency does not have the authority. The TSDB has to be authorized by Congress because it affects so many aspects of a person's life, a person that is included in that list live. There's also another case that it's going to be adjudicated by the Supreme Court in this term, which is going to have a lot to do with that Kovac v. Ray pending case in the Fifth Circuit, which is a removal of the administrative powers, overwhelming administrative powers that have been given to agencies to do as they please. And that's another second case that is before the Supreme Court, which is really important and good for us, and at least for Kovac v. Ray, which has a lot to do with our predicament, with the controversies that we have before the court.
Yes, it certainly feels that TSDB, we're on the precipice of TSDB getting in front of Supreme Court more and more in various cases, various aspects. I hope it will be one of the high priority conversations in the Supreme Court. I had to look up one word that you used, certiorari. In law, certiorari is a court process to seek judicial review of a decision of a lower court or government agency. So when you say certiorari, it's somebody's requested a Supreme Court to review a decision of a lower court. Is that what the meaning of certiorari?
Yeah, because an appeal is, you appeal as of right. Okay, you have a right to appeal the lower court decision. You go to the to the Court of Appeals, and you have a right to appeal. However, when you go to the Supreme Court, certiorari is a discretionary revision of the case. So the Supreme Court decides if they accept the petition for revision or not. So it's not like an appeal where the court has to entertain it as of right. It's more a discretionary. And as a matter of fact, most cases are denied that discretionary opportunity to argue before the Supreme Court. So I think it is a wonderful thing, even though the petitioner is the FBI. Do not be mistaken. It's not FICRE, because FICRE right now is the prevailing party so far. It's the FBI that is saying, no, curtail the rights of this man, the constitutional rights of this man, because we said that we took him off the list already, and that should be enough. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the thing. We have toddlers, as we discussed 2 weeks ago. There's toddlers that have been placed on this list. I certainly hope that, it's Mr. Abbas and the CARE are also involved in this case, that they bring up before the Supreme Court, what are toddlers doing in a terrorist database? Because we have the evidence of that. What are innocent people, as the Air Marshal last week said, these are perfectly innocent people. They're not criminals. And we're following them around. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the Supreme Court to strike down this highly illegal list that is, obliterates the civil rights of children, of grandmothers, of law-abiding citizens that have never been indicted, arrested, or convicted of a terrorist offense. And they're not even suspects of a terrorist offense. That's why they have that legal secret criteria to put them in there. I think that 2024 is going to be a really amazing and great year of freedom, a year of freedom.
Wonderful words. Okay, so I actually looked at the filing by the FBI, and the very first statement that I read to me as false. The Terrorist Screening Center, a division within the FBI's National Security Branch, maintains a terrorism watch list. Two components of the watch list are the no-fly list, which contains the names of individuals who are prohibited from flying within, to, from, and over the United States, and the selectee list, which contains the names of individuals who must undergo enhanced security screening before being permitted to board a flight, period. So where are all the non-investigative subjects? Where are all the people who are in the database but are not being screened? Well, what's happening, Anna?
Well, I think that the term gaslighting, it was created precisely to do what they do in this program, which is say, the plausible deniability and no. And here, notice they just say two components of that watch list, but they don't say the two components. You see, if they had put the two components, then that would have been like there's only two. But they just put two components of that watch list. So it's like, yeah, we know there are more. And of course, they're not going to tell the court that there are other components of people that don't even meet a reasonable suspicion criteria because they don't want to admit it, right? I want to reiterate that the reason why they are so insistent and going to the Supreme Court is because the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals allowed Mr. Ficre's due process claim to go through. What that means, he alleged that prior to being placed on that list, he had to be given notice and an opportunity to rebut the information being used to put him on that list. Because you see, he alleges that the reason they placed him on the list is because the FBI asked him to be an informant and he refused to be one. And as a retaliation, he was placed on the list. So he's demanding to see this information. This man was tortured, and there was an FBI agent that interrogated him over there. So this man, he has had a 10-year battle, and he is insisting on his due process rights as an American citizen of notice and due process and opportunity to controvert and confront the evidence against him, which is exactly what all of targeted individuals are demanding. I don't meet the terrorist reasonable suspicion criteria. I should not be on the list. I should not be privately nominated to this list. I should have been given notice, and I should have had an opportunity to rebut and controvert any information because I am not a terrorist. Even if the Supreme Court were to say, I don't know, his case is different from ours because he was on the selectee list. None of the plaintiffs in our case encounter problems when traveling. They have never been told that they were on the TSDB, except the two plaintiffs that were told it directly, and that's how we found out. So it is very similar, and a positive, a beneficial, a favorable decision by the Supreme Court would certainly help us. But it doesn't mean that if there is not a favorable decision, that would mean that we cannot continue with our struggle, because targeted individuals have never been told officially that they are on the TSDB, like Mr. Ficre was.
Before we get to the second segment of the show, I want to share a letter that I wrote to my family and friends this holiday season. I said, dear family and friends, this holiday season, I have a special request. I don't want you to give me any material presents. I don't need another tie, another shirt, another pair of slippers, or the latest electronic gadget. There's a project close to my heart, and it takes priority over everything. If you want to honor me this holiday season, please make a donation to Targeted Justice, a nonprofit organization fighting for my rights as a targeted individual and rights of millions of people just like me all over the world. As you know, I am a plaintiff in the historic lawsuit Targeted Justice v. Garland. This has become the utmost priority in my private and public life. Your donation will mean more than you can ever imagine. Thank you, and have a warm holiday season. And I can tell you that two people already responded to me, and they said, well, in that case, don't send me any gifts. Put your gifts toward your cause. And it was the highest form of reciprocity. They honored my request, and they also requested the same thing for themselves. And that was beautiful. Perhaps this will inspire you to do something similar.
Thank you. That's really beautiful. For me, you gave me an idea, and I'm going to try to work on it this coming week, because unlike you, I don't have many friends left. But I've made many new friends in this community. So, but I know that a lot of people respect me back home. They were prohibited from helping me. They were prohibited from supporting me. But I know that they do have a high regard of me, regardless of what how they obliterated everything about me over there. So you just gave me a good idea, and I'm going to work on it. Targeted Justice wrote a newsletter, I think it was yesterday, regarding the December fundraising effort, and it's been blocked. It's been blocked. We have a subscription of 10,000 people between the free and the paid, and we had only 4 comments. So that's how, and also because of the statistics, we know that it's being blocked. The hacking continues to be severe, and it's with absolute impunity that our free speech, targeted justice free speech, is being severely curtailed, and illegally so. So I urge everybody watching to please share the newsletter with a TI or with family members. Like you said, these people are fighting for our rights, and nobody at Targeted Justice derives an income. I want to assure that, and none of the volunteers that work so hard to keep this going, they do the best they can because they have jobs and families, but they don't derive an income either. So everything that Targeted Justice does, the fundraising, is purely for our legal efforts to continue this battle until the very last TI, even one in Malaysia, and Helen in Australia, and Melanie in Brussels, and all our friends in Germany, until the last one of them, even those we don't know, is free.
Inspirational, truly inspirational words. And the second segment of the show is coming to us from the desk of Anna Toledo. And Toledo always shares the most interesting stories that we simply have to put in the show. And today, it's the story of James O'Keefe. And I hope you know who James O'Keefe is, formerly with Project Veritas, did a lot of beautiful investigative work about Pfizer, about other things. And here's a tweet on November 26th. Trying to understand the SSSS designation on my domestic boarding passes. PBI shut down entire passenger line while I went through. PBI stands for Palm Beach International Airport. Agent tells, your name sounds familiar. Contact State Department to get off the list. Is it common? TSA agent says, once a month at Palm Beach International Airport. And there was a video attached to this tweet, and we're going to play it right now.
JetBlue flight tonight out of Palm Beach, and it says SSSS on the boarding pass, and the front desk people were like, you're on a list, you need to do advanced screening procedures against you. I don't know why this is happening now. Why this is ahead of our story that we're releasing on Tuesday.
Did you buy a ticket one way?
Yeah.
Last minute?
Yeah. Yes. It's like algorithm triggers it.
Stuff like that will trigger it, yeah.
Well, I always buy one way tickets last night. I don't know why I triggered it now.
Yeah. That would be with the airline.
So I have to go to my computer or.
Not, we're gonna make sure
Make sure the computer turns on. What's the purpose of doing that?
Just make sure power's on. Because if it didn't power on, you would have to wait out there until it turns on.
Just curious why that computer.
Because we're testing all the electronics, that's like, all electronics.
Like.
Your computer.
Website, if you're on that list, the information that you take out.
You know, the stuff I do with videos,
Your name's on the logo.
and everything like that, the undercover videos. Especially this crowd, they exposing, they.
Sorry, so interrupting. Hold over.
Yeah,
It's good. There you go, honey.
All right,
You gotta get.
so how do I get off of this?
you're on the list, you can go to the State Department.
Yeah.
Click on website. check it out.
How often do they do this?
You don't really get that many.
Like one a day, one a week? One a month? Okay, yes, one a month.
Just, you know, whenever you can check online, or you see you have to check in at the gate, most likely you're gonna get it.
A lot of people don't let you get it.
Like, if you can do a mobile boarding pass,
This is the first time this has ever happened.
alright. You would have to check with the airline secure flight, yeah.
Website. With all the information.
Remove from the list. Do you know why I'm on the list?
You know why I'm on the list. They will never tell you why, whether you're on the list. We tried, we sent these requests and never got a response from the FBI whether we are on the list. Has James O'Keefe become a targeted individual? I think it's a rhetorical question.
I really think that people in handling codes 1 and 2, he is in handling code 2 because the 4 S's, like they do to Brandon Straka and all the J6ers, the 4 and even the toddler son of that J6er, the 4 S's is your handling code 2, the selectee list. I really think, even though the people that have fought in court that are mostly from Muslim or Arab descent, most of them are categories 1 or 2. None of them so far I have seen that they mention, right, being targeted because they don't want to be called crazy. But I am absolutely convinced that they are not spared from the microwave attacks and from the voice to skull and the other atrocious things that the government criminals carry out against targeted individuals. It's just that the people in categories 1 and 2 that are targeted don't say it. But I think mostly they don't talk about it because they don't want to be called crazy. What I find ridiculous is that a person with 2 million followers on Twitter has been targeted. I just find it pretty stupid in my opinion, because everybody knows this man is not a terrorist. This man fights corruption. He goes for whistleblowers. He interviews them, and he does really good exposés of corruption. So he's what a lot of journalists should be, and what a lot of patriots and good standing citizens should be. He's very courageous.
He certainly is. His style of journalism is very much appreciated by the millions of his followers.
It makes sense that he's targeted because he built up Project Veritas from scratch. And then all of a sudden, after he did that expose, he got fired, which is what happens to many targeted individuals. They get fired, they get, ostracized. The good thing is he's so well known, he was able to, he rebuilt himself. But still, they fired him, and Project Veritas is losing support, from one day to the next. Of the millions of people that supported them are no longer supporting Project Veritas because they fired James O'Keefe.
We know that a lot of people with recognizable names, with careers, with public figures are targeted individuals, but I've seen very few of them embracing that moniker. I think it's because targeted individuals are viewed as mentally off. This is a very common initial reaction. Oh, these are the people that find each other online and they support each other's beliefs that the government is following them, the government is doing it. It's sort of internet-based mass psychogenic illness. Well, it's not, but that's the label. That's the unfortunate meaning that a lot of people assign to target individuals. And we are trying to do just the opposite. We are proudly calling ourselves target individuals because there's nothing to be ashamed of, because the organized stalking is real, the microwave torture is real, the V2K is real. So we own this name. We call ourselves target individuals, and we want more people to embrace it. We had people who actually came out as target individuals, like Dr. Anna Mihalcha, for example. She shared her experience as a target individual for the first time on this show, and I wish more people of stature did the same thing. Embracing that label, embracing that moniker is only going to make our case stronger. And with James, I don't know exactly what the circumstances are. The fact that he has 4 S's on his boarding pass obviously tells us that he is on TSDB. And if something else is going on in his life, if he's getting microwave torture, if he's getting organized stalking, other things are happening to him, he would put 2 and 2 together, because he would be a great journalistic voice to be on our side.
Definitely. Somebody has to, I say, come out of the targeted closet. And I am very proud. Like you say, I own it. I own it because, they did the full menu on many of us. They do the full menu on you. They do the full, and we are walking miracles. We have triumphed over science and over torture and over so much power, and we're still here, and they have not been able to shut down our voice or obliterate us, and yeah, they have done a harm, but we're still here, and that is a triumph, and that is a triumph we should all be proud of.
And I can tell you my personal anecdote. There's a way to introduce yourself in many social situations, and I made it a rule. When I introduce myself, I'd say, my name is Len Bear, I'm a targeted individual, and then everything else that follows. So I made it a personal rule to put that statement up front. And some people know what it is, some people don't know what it is. Then the conversation goes into various directions. But this is my personal rule. When I introduce myself, I put that up front. If you want to know me, that is an important thing to know about me. I want to share with our viewers a part of the Federal Register that you, Anna, found, and I think it is extremely relevant to the story of James O'Keefe, to the story of every targeted individual. It's extremely relevant to what we discussed on the previous show, when the distribution of information about law-abiding citizens was a centerpiece of our conversation. Please tell us what this paragraph in the Federal Register is about.
The federal government supports the creation of different lists. They call them projects by different states or entities. And that's where I have to correct myself regarding the man that in Washington state was denied medical services, urgent medical services, because he was supposedly on a list that made him to be a person that was not friendly to first responders. Turns out that there is such a thing, that the states and the federal government, they can make their own lists, but they have to abide in order to get the funding, they have to abide by certain rules, which is the protection of the privacy and civil rights of individuals. And this requires the reasonable suspicion standard. You cannot label a person a criminal unless they are a criminal. And that's what the reasonable suspicion standard is. And it's contained in this regulation. Well, we have sworn statements from an former FBI deputy director of the Terrorist Screening Center that says that there are people on the TSDB that do not meet the reasonable suspicion standard. So I was wondering, how could that be? Well, the answer lies here in the Federal Register. It seems we don't have that adjudication, that decision, that determination by the Attorney General, but it seems that the Attorney General can waive any of the requirements to put people on different kind of lists. It says in whole or in part, the Attorney General can waive the applicability of a particular requirement, which waiving the requirement of reasonable suspicion, in my opinion, it's an atrocious civil rights violation, because that's the very essence of the Fifth Amendment and the presumption of innocence. So since the FBI is under the Attorney General, well, in Spanish, we have a saying that translates that you put the goat to watch the lettuce. So that's basically what we see here, that the Attorney General, I don't know if that's the case, why they concocted the secret criteria and just completely discarded the reasonable suspicion criteria to put people on the TSDB that shouldn't be there because they don't meet the terrorist criteria.
So this waiver that is described in this Federal Register, that is a function of the Attorney General or his or her designee. And that's why our lawsuit is called Targeted Justice v. Garland. Merrick Garland is the Attorney General, and he is the first on the list of defendants in both official and personal capacity, because if he is waiving our rights so lightly by hundreds and thousands, then he is responsible for what's going on with us targeting individuals and other people on this list. The outcome of this waiver, if this waiver is indeed given by the Attorney General or his designees, then everybody can be put on the list. Information about any law-abiding citizens can be distributed through the National Crime Information System. And that means if everybody is on the list, everybody has a dossier, then the US is indeed turning into the Stasi state. And that's not the country we want to live in.
No, in fact, the reason why we included Merrick Garland as the first defendant is because we enumerated some of the audit reports that state that the FBI is including people in the TSDB that do not meet the non-investigative subjects that do not meet the terrorist criteria. And so as a person, as an Attorney General, he has the responsibility of looking out for the protection of the civil rights and the constitutional rights of all American citizens. And he's not doing that because he's not ensuring that the FBI comply with the Constitution. That's why he was sued in his first place, because of his complete disregard, failure to uphold the law, complete disregard of constitutional rights of people that he is called on to supervise. This is where the FICRE case comes in. The Court of Appeals said, once individuals have been placed in the database, the screening center sorts them into constituent lists used by different government agencies like the TSA for screening purposes. So by not requiring the reasonable suspicion standard, you're putting people that shouldn't be on a terrorist list, you're allowing them to be there. But more than that, the TSA, they have little groups, classifications within the TSDB. And it seems that, for example, one of the classifications we have already seen is the J6ers, as that Air Marshal told in the interview that you played last week. So it seems that there is a category, and this regulation specifically prohibits the discrimination for political beliefs, and it's just, it's just there because it's a violation of the First Amendment, right? So that's what TSA is doing with their quiet skies, and Mr. O'Keefe, he had never encountered flight problems before, but clearly, even though he's not a J6er, he has been put there for improper motives and for him exerting his journalistic freedom of expression. And that's why he has such an amazing case against whoever put them on this list.
I hope he pursues it.
Yes, because unless he does so, I don't think that they will, this list is like Hotel California. Once you're in, you never get out.
That's true. Well, I think we entertained our viewers enough today. We told you about this totally new case that I haven't heard about that is going to the Supreme Court. This is why I'm calling this episode TSDB Goes to Washington.
Yeah, well, I want you to put in the show notes and people, please put in your calendars January 8th, the link, because the Supreme Court carries out the live oral arguments. You can access them through the internet. So write it in your calendar and don't miss this historic oral argument that is going to change. It might change a lot of what we're facing. And just to say goodbye, I just want to again, I want to thank the support of all the people that have given us support to continue our struggle. So all the help you can give to the targeted justice will be greatly appreciated, because it's a fight. It's a fight for everybody, not just 18 plaintiffs. This is a fight for freedom for all targeted individuals. And I hope you have read and understood the pleadings and everything we have done. It's for setting everybody free. Thank you.
All right. Well, I have nothing else to add. We will see you here every Sunday, rain or shine.